It's the end. Last week we read chapter 12, which was a great wrap up and a good conclusion to the book, but I dare say that the coda might be the best wrap up of them all. Welcome back and happy Tuesday, turkeys. How long have we known each other?
We've known each other for 2 decades.
I am not apologizing for who I am or what I like or the people that I love.
How do I be a wife? How do I be a mom? And how do I be myself and all of that? You didn't see that coming, did you?
Hello, good morning.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday in the turkey land. We are
Cheers.
wrapping up.
And if you don't know what we're talking about Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. And if you don't remember from last week, we were discussing what I asked, what is a coda and why is the last part of the book called coda?
Mm-hmm.
So, ChatGPT credit, I Googled and we shall confirm. It says coda comes from the Italian word coda, meaning tail. So, that makes sense. In music, a coda refers to a concluding passage that brings a piece to a satisfying close. Over the time, the term was adopted in literature and other fields to describe an ending section that provides resolution or final thoughts. So, you were right, or we were right, or whatever we assumed, but that's the correct definition. I've never seen that used as a book. It's always like, no, not preamble. What am I talking about? It's like the end of a book, like post
Conclusion.
or something dumb like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just
I
more
will be
fun.
honest, I don't usually read a preface and I don't usually read a conclusion or a final remarks, or I still don't really read the acknowledgments. Anyway, we did
don't
it on
read the
this
acknowledgments.
book and I highly recommend. Also, it's funny because last week I thought coda was a Latin word of some kind. And then after Kayla and I looked up the definition offline, I remembered it was Italian for tail, and I dug it out of the recesses of my brain where Duolingo lessons reside because I'm learning Italian on Duolingo. Shout out 700 plus day streak. I'm sorry.
Dude, that's impressive.
Oh, I love that app so much. Okay. Well, I don't have a summary this week because the coda is itself a summary.
Exactly, of basically the whole book.
So let me just see. We thought what would be helpful is to just kind of chitty the chat about our key takeaways from this book, kind of our own summaries. And then also I definitely have some quotes because again, this was such a delightful wrap up. So if anybody is unsure if they want to read this book or not, you could skip to the end for real, and just read the coda. Excuse me, and kind of get a really lovely overview of what the whole book is about.
Mm-hmm. I will say again, his style of writing is so different. Read the coda first to dabble your toe in, but then you really just gotta start from the beginning and take it all in. Because it's almost like for me, when I listen to one sentence, I just have to zoom out with him a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? To gather the whole picture with his writing skills, or maybe it's, again, him talking in my ear. But I do think that coda is a great place to start if you're unsure about this book. It was delightful, though.
Kind of sad it's over.
I know. I had this book, like, in my Audible for, gosh, over a year.
Really?
I had started it, and again, the way he talks, I made like 15 minutes in, and then I got distracted by another book or a podcast or whatever. So when you brought this up, I was like, oh my God, this is my perfect excuse to actually read the book.
This really lends itself to like a book club too, or a book study, or read with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really nice that each chapter is kind of a concluding thought, which I enjoyed. Should we read some little quotations and then do our key takeaways?
I feel like the quotes will, because they're kind of a summary of the book, will kind of lend each other to some key takeaways, so we can just dive in and then explore from there.
Perf my girth. Well, let's get into this tale. Okay, let's do this. Oh, I loved this. As we've talked about, I grew up in a mega evangelical life. So his expansion of Bible verses that I've heard growing up, I find really tantalizing. People who maybe don't have that background might not be as enthused by it, but just bear with me. There's good takeaways, okay? Okay, so this verse comes from Matthew 7:7 through 8. Ask and it shall be given to you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened. And then JP says, at first glance, this seems like nothing but a testament to the magic of prayer, in the sense of entreating God to grant favors. But God, whatever or whoever he may be, is no simple granter of wishes. When tempted by the devil himself in the desert, we saw in Rule 7, parentheses, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Even Christ himself was not willing to call upon his Father for a favor. Furthermore, every day the prayers of desperate people go unanswered. But maybe this is because the questions they contain are not phrased in the proper manner. Perhaps it's not reasonable to ask God to break the rules of physics every time we fall by the wayside or make a serious error. Perhaps in such times you can't put the cart before the horse and simply wish for your problem to be solved in some magical manner. Perhaps you could ask instead what you might have to do right now to increase your resolve, buttress your character, and find the strength to go on. Perhaps you could ask instead to see the truth.
It's funny. I love when you read it back to me because, like, again, it kind of hits home a little bit more. For me, well, I like how he tied it into the verse, but at the end, it feels again like you're going back to ownership and self-responsibility. It's like you can't just wish for things to happen. You can't just only pray for things to happen. Instead of praying for, hey, give me this thing or give me this goal to attain, it's like, why don't you help me by showing me the path and the truth, or maybe what I need to change so that I can put in the work to do it. Like if you want to become a millionaire and you're just sitting on the couch and you're like, I'm praying and I'm manifesting and it's going to happen. No, maybe he's going to be like, or she is going to be like, well, you got to do X, Y, Z. And then you're like, shit, but then you do it and you can do it.
The amount of times I feel as if especially what I've been exposed to, American Evangelical Church treating God like a genie in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
That is basically a get-rich-quick scheme masked in Bible verses or somebody's magic pill. I was so turned off by that so often. You know, you just are going to pray that you're just going to pray that you're going to lose weight and you're just going to magically lose weight, not have to actually go through the building discipline of eating healthy and exercising. It doesn't make sense. Also, what God that cared for you would just give you what you wanted instead of teaching you the skills to obtain it yourself.
Which goes back to like parenting. You can't just give children everything they ask for.
It's such a change in perspective. Anyway, I just that slapped me right in the face.
But it also, the second part is like, but if you knock, like, it's not just like the door will open. It's like, no, you gotta go knock on the door. I don't know. I always used to hear like the first part of that verse, and I don't know if no one ever said the second part, or maybe I just stopped listening, but I liked the second part.
Yeah, it implies that there's action required of you. You can't just sit on the couch and say, I want things to change, and then go back to doing the same stupid shit that you were doing that got you in this shitty position in the first place.
Ding, ding, ding. Exactly.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. I'll just keep reading. Okay. But it's at such point that you must decide whether you want to be right or you want to have peace.
I hate this. Argument. Yeah.
Obsessed. I am obsessed with that. Just one sentence. Okay. You must decide whether to insist upon the absolute correctness of your view or to listen and negotiate. You don't get peace by being right. You just get to be right while your partner gets to be wrong, defeated and wrong. Do that 10,000 times and your marriage will be over, or you will wish it was. To choose the alternative, to seek peace, you have to decide that you want the answer more than you want to be right. That's the way out of the prison of your stubborn preconceptions. That's the prerequisite for negotiation. That's to truly abide by the principle of Rule 2, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. My wife and I learned that if you ask yourself such a question and you genuinely desire the answer, no matter how disgraceful and terrible and shameful, then a memory of something you did that was stupid and wrong at some point in the generally not distant enough past will arise from the depths of your mind. Then you can go back to your partner and reveal why you're an idiot and apologize sincerely, and that person can do the same for you and then apologize sincerely, and then you two idiots will be able to talk again. Perhaps that is true prayer. The question, what have I done wrong and what can I do now to set things at least a little bit more right? But your heart must be open to the terrible truth. You must be receptive to that which you do not want to hear. When you decide to learn about your faults so that they can be rectified, you open a line of communication with the source of all revelatory thought. Maybe that's the same thing as consulting your conscience. Maybe that's the same thing in some manner as a discussion with God.
I liked this one because he sets it up as like you're fighting, and when you're angry, you literally, like when your body is angry, your mind, all it wants to do is like punish and be right and like defeat, defeat, defeat. And it's so true because when you're elevated and in that heightened state of anger and like frustration, it's like, I don't care about anything except telling you how it is. But like to take the time and then to ask yourself, what did I do wrong? It's like you
And
really
then for
have to,
both people to do that and to come back to the table. God, I also just love his sarcasm where he says, then you two idiots can move on.
yeah, that's a good one.
This is a little shorty boy, but he says, what shall I do with my life? Aim for paradise and concentrate on today.
Did he write ha after that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because because he said it in the audio and I was like, oh, he's like really feeling this one. He's like, what is it again?
What shall I do with my life? Aim for paradise and concentrate on today.
Concentrate on today. Ha! That's how he said it. And it was funny because he's like, I got a good one. Or that was a good one, he said, or something like that.
That is so funny.
I do like how, to backtrack all the way to the beginning of this coda, to the top of the tail, if you will, about the pen that he's using to write these things down. It's like a pen that illuminates light. And I was like, where is he going to go with this? I thought he was going to say, like, he created this book by, I mean, honestly, the thoughts that he wrote down did end up translating to a lot of chapters, but it was just cool. He's like, wow, I'm just asking myself, my soul, all these super important questions. And I really thought it was interesting how he was like, me, the person asking the question, is not the same person as me answering the question. And how can that be? Well, I just didn't know what I was going to say until I posed the question to my soul, and then I just wrote it out with this light pen, which is just metaphorically interesting. But I was like, it is weird because when you stop and ask yourself something, if you just stop trying to come up with an answer, I feel like usually the answer comes to you from
Yeah.
from deep inside and you don't even like know where, but it's there. I think we just have to shut up all of our busy consciousness and let our subconscious like eke out.
Yeah.
I forgot
Which
to
I
touch
like.
on that.
Yeah, and he did touch on, is it consulting your conscience? Is it the universe? Is it
Yeah.
God? Is it our collective conscience? I don't know. All of it gets back to some kind of higher power that connects us to each other and something. And it is really wild when you think about it that way. Same with creatives or artists, writing. It's like you tap into something and then this stuff comes out of it. And it's you because you're making it, but it doesn't really feel like you.
I know. It's weird, but that it is you.
Maybe it's the God in you. Okay, next quote. Orient yourself properly. Then and only then, concentrate on the day. Set your sights at the good, the beautiful, and the true, and then focus pointedly and carefully on the concerns of each moment. Aim continually at heaven while you work diligently on earth. Attend fully to the future in that manner while attending fully to the present. Then you have the best chance of perfecting both.
Love it. This is one of the best overarching themes of this entire book is like have one foot in the present, have one foot looking forward to the future, have one foot in chaos, one foot in order. Like this whole dichotomy of finding the balance in your life and being able to be in both. That's the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from this book entirely, is what I'll say.
It's that idea of having your feet planted on the ground. Your head can be in the clouds, but your feet need to be planted on the ground. It's some axiom from church going, and I don't think it's a Bible verse, but I just remember people saying that you don't want to be one of those people that's so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good, which I think is that same kind of concept. If you're just constantly obsessively focusing on the future, you're going to miss what your whole life is. But if you're only living in the day to day and you never plan for the future, how are you going to have a 401k or retire or
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
the basic, which has always been my beef of the whole carpe diem and YOLO and whatever other sayings have come out in our lifetime. Like that's a dandy, but tomorrow might get here, and I don't want to fuck around so hard today that tomorrow is shit.
Yeah, just fuck around a little bit every once in a while.
Yeah, it's that balance of chaos and order, man. I don't know. This really helped me as someone who constantly finds a gray area. He really helped me articulate these ideas in a way that I don't think I was able to independently. Okay. Anyway, let's keep going. To act to justify the suffering of your parents is to remember all the sacrifices that all the others who lived before you, not least your parents, have made for you in all the course of the terrible past, to be grateful for that progress that has been thereby made, and to act in accordance with that remembrance and gratitude. People sacrificed immensely to bring about what we have now. In many cases, they literally died for it, and we should act with some respect for that. I've liked that because some people have poopy parents, but I enjoyed the way that he backed it up too, to say that there's been generations of people that have lived and died and fought and worked for where each of us is today. No matter where we are, even if we feel like it's not great, there are definitely people who sacrifice something so we could have this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. It's not just the people like your parents, whether they did something or not, but like just generationally. I like that. I
Me
didn't pick
too.
up on that when I read this.
I really like it in the context of like modern day feminism.
Mm. Mm.
You're standing on the backs of people who fought to be able to wear pants and go to school and sacrificed a lot more than writing a tweet.
Right.
Okay. I continued asking questions. The answers came within seconds. What shall I do with the stranger? Invite him into my house and treat him like a brother so that he may become one. That's to extend the hand of trust to someone so that his or her best part can step forward and reciprocate. That's to manifest the sacred hospitality that makes life between those who you do not yet know each other possible. What shall I do with a fallen soul? Offer a genuine and cautious hand, but do not join it in the mire. That's a good summary of what we covered in Rule 3. Make friends with people who want the best for you. That's an injunction to refrain both from casting pearls before swine and from camouflaging your vice with virtue. What shall I do with the world? Conduct myself as if being is more valuable than non-being. Act so that you are not made bitter and corrupt by the tragedy of existence. That's the essence of Rule 1. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Confront the uncertainty of the world voluntarily and with faith and courage.
I love that.
Let me keep reading because it's in the same vein. What shall I do with a torn nation? Stitch it back together with careful words of truth. The importance of this injunction has, if anything, become clearer over the past few years. We are dividing and polarizing and drifting toward chaos. It is necessary under such conditions, if we are to avoid a catastrophe, for each of us to bring forward the truth as we see it, not the arguments that justify our ideologies, not the machinations that further our ambitions, but the stark, pure facts of our existence revealed for others to see and contemplate so that we can find common ground and proceed together.
So he's saying that facts over feelings.
And actual facts, not trying to buttress what your platform is.
I like the word buttress.
Me too. Me too. It's very satisfying. How many more quotey toads do I have? Let me just mash through some of these
You
and then we
good,
can get
girl.
to our things. So, oh God, it's just so potent. Okay. There is no enlightened one. There is only the one who is seeking further enlightenment. Bruh. Proper being is process, not a state. A journey, not a destination. It is the continual transformation of what you know through encounter with what you don't know, rather than the desperate clinging to the certainty that is eternally insufficient in any case. That accounts for the importance of Rule 4. Compare yourself. ... Always place your becoming above your current being. That means it is necessary to recognize and accept your insufficiency so that it can be continually rectified. That's painful, certainly, but it's a good deal. Consider as well that you may be blocked in your progress, not because you lack opportunity, but because you have been too arrogant to make full use of what already lies in front of you.
Ooh.
I think I need to read those two sentences again.
Yes.
Always place your becoming above your current being. And consider that you may be blocked in your progress, not because you lack opportunity, but because you have been too arrogant to make full use of what already lies in front of you.
Again, it's like there's doors in front of you to be opened, but you just feel like it should happen because you're sitting in front of them. Whereas there is opportunity, you just need to get up and try to open a door.
Or if you're so busy pointing out that you don't have access to door 3, but you never took the time to explore doors 1 and 2.
Maybe the key for door 3 is in door 2.
Hmm.
Looks like an escape room, you guys. You gotta at least
Kayla's
go.
favorite.
It's true though. I feel, yep.
If you spend your whole time focusing on what you don't have, then you're not acknowledging what you do have. And I think that's what he's getting at. And it doesn't mean that someone or something or society is not being unjust or unfair. It doesn't mean that those things can't also be true because you're a woman or you're whatever minority group you're a part of, but it means that that can be true and you can also be missing out on opportunities because you're so fixated on the one thing that doesn't seem to be accessible.
Correct. And in my humble opinion, if you're just focusing on that one thing and not trying to take action on other things parallel to each other, that's not empowering if you're just focusing on what is not there for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, use what's there for you, even if it's small. And that's what's empowering to get you to the next step.
Exactly. Okay, I don't know, but I underlined it. He accepted his lowly state and was sufficiently grateful to take the first equally low step away from it. Okay, he's talking about a dude I think it's like a dude that's really smart, but he's living with his parents and he's not working. And he's highly educated, but he's gotten nowhere and he's basement dwelling.
High
Okay,
anxiety.
so that's the he. That's who the he we're talking about. He accepted his lowly state and was sufficiently grateful to take the first lowly step forward. That's far preferable from waiting endlessly for the magical arrival of. This is how you spell the word. Godot. Godot? I don't know what that is. Okay.
I don't remember him saying that.
Yeah. I remember underlining this and being like, shit, I'm going to have to read this out loud. I don't know what the fuck it means. Okay. Okay, but even if we just say that's far preferable to waiting endlessly for the magical arrival of God. Okay? That's far preferable to arrogant, static, unchanging existence while the demons of rage, resentment, and unlived life gather around. So basically, he's like, this guy took a job as a dishwasher to do something rather than sit around and wait for some executive position that he could have decided he was entitled to because of his high level of education.
Yep. Because of the state he was in, he was like, let me just take the first step and give my all to this dishwasher thing.
Yeah, and do it well. Not as if it's below me or that I'm better than these people, but I'm going to do this and do it well. And then I think he goes on to get promoted or do something.
Where is the part that says go dot, go dot, go dot, ga dot?
I don't know.
This says possible meaning is the unattainable or the unknown.
That makes sense. Why is it capitalized? Is it a thing?
Because it is potentially, some interpret Godot, Godot as a play on the word God or a higher power.
Okay. Well, that makes sense within the context of the sentence, but I almost thought that it was a typo. I guess not.
Godot represents something people hope for but may never receive, such as salvation, purpose, or answers. I don't know. Okay. It's a little disparaging.
We learned a new word today, and I should have known better than to think he had a typo. Okay. The heightened knowledge of fragility and mortality produced by death can terrify, embitter, and separate. It can also awaken. It can remind those who grieve not to take the people who love them for granted. Thus, my obsession with the Memento Mori artwork / skulls.
Now look at you wearing your Liquid Death shirt right now. I know it's not the same thing, but there's a skull. It's true.
It is. It is. You can be sad and depressed by it, which I have done, which I don't recommend. It's easy to fall into that trap. But you can also use it as a way to not sweat the small stuff.
It's so true. And plan for the future while you have a foot in today.
Exactly. And if your husband doesn't stop clearing his throat all the time, you can remember that if he were not here, you would miss it, which is true because when I was away at training for 6 weeks, I remember thinking one night I would give anything to hear him clearing his throat right now because it would mean I was with him.
That's sweet.
And then I held on to that in the moments when I really wanted to have a rude comment. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much how much more you have that you want to go through. I mean, everything that we've talked about, he refers back to in the coda. He refers most of these points to a certain chapter, which is why I think it is smart to start there, and then you can sprinkle in. You can even read chapters out of order because they're not chronological in any way.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
he'll go back and reference them a little bit, but not enough where it would ruin anything if you read them out of order.
yeah. So maybe pick a chapter, maybe read the coda, and then read the first chapter that stands out to you. That seems interesting enough. Or if you haven't, we've got 12 other podcasts that you can listen to that dive into these topics.
Okay, I jotted down a few key takeaways. I will just as our wrap up, and then we can get out of here. Okay, here was one of my big daddies. Again, these are in no particular order, but if I want to be part of a community, then I have to sacrifice something to do that. Like, you can't operate as an island and only look out for yourself if you want other people to look out for you. That's not how community works.
True. Yep.
So I was sort of reflecting on that whole topic because I think the last 2 years have really been like big year growths for me, starting 2 years ago. I don't know the timeline. But the year that I was in therapy, I think was kind of the kickoff. And I had to, I think, for part of my healing process was to put up like big boy walls and super boundaries that were probably a little bit tighter and more intense than they needed to be, but I kind of needed that safer cocoon space while I was in the healing process. Excuse me. Now I feel like I'm coming out of that with my fortitudes properly in place and a better sense of myself, and not in the midst of the raw unpacking that you do sometimes in heavy therapy work, where I'm ready to let my guard down and figure out how to do a better job of being within a community, whether that's like friends or family, and exploring what the give and take looks like, because I definitely had the bad habits of being the self-sacrifice or martyr, that whole thing. So I did the extreme other end and was just basically like, I'm only in this for myself. Everybody else can get the hell out of here, which again, I think appropriate for a time. So now we're trying to come out to figure out, how do we have a foot in both camps of tending to my own needs and not letting myself be railroaded, but also being available to people and being vulnerable and sacrificing to the extent that I'm not self-sacrificing so much that I'm doing more, but finding that balance. So I really liked, I don't know, that was one of my key takeaways, and I think he touched on that in a lot of different parts of this book. I also think the timing was interesting because as we've talked about, grew up evangelical and kind of again did the extreme version of shut it down because of how ridiculous some things were. But now coming back to being in a more healed place, recognizing that some type of spiritual practice and higher power, I think, is an integral part of life. Now, what that looks like for everybody is different, but also that I can use different words if the old language of what was used in church growing up makes me still internally want to vomit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I am obsessed with how much he highlighted that there's a ton of gray in life, but also there's still universal truths. So there are things that are universally right and wrong, and we can see evidence of that in both ancient text and recent history, because he really lays into the whole postmodern philosophy thing. I can understand how it has its place in the world, but also it's not the end all be all of thought either, because if nothing's right and nothing's wrong, then everything is fluid and everything is chaos, and that's not healthy. And I think it's, even when he talks about just if your basic rule of life is to not intentionally inflict harm on someone else, I mean, I think everybody needs to be able to agree that that's universally true.
Yes.
Anyway, I loved that because, again, I love the gray areas, but yet there's bumpers. Like, there's boundaries to some of this shit. We can't just say nothing is right and nothing is wrong. That's nonsense. Okay.
Yeah.
Last but not least, and goes back to my personality of being very rigid sometimes, that too much order is tyranny, but too much chaos leads to destruction. So it's okay that I struggle to find the balance between the two, as long as I'm able to acknowledge that I need a foot in each camp.
I like it. It's like counting your blueberries. Hey, it's not the worst thing you could be strict on, rigid on.
It is really, this was just such a helpful, timed book for me, for constantly me griping about how am I supposed to do what I want when what I want half the time is to eat garbage and sit around.
Yes.
But how do I continue to like grow and give room for flexibility? Anyway, it's like you do both, and life is just kind of this constant balance of negotiating between those two, but you have to have both. If you have all of one or all of the other, then things get out of whack. So me struggling with that balance is normal and arguably healthy.
You hit on all the key takeaways. I love them all. The one that I'll say that stood out to me on top of what you just said is that basically the point that life is hard. It's not supposed to be easy. And here's the tools to help you get through the hard times, whether that's a higher power or community or pull up your bootstraps or therapy. Like you can't just expect life to be easy. And I don't know, that to me is like obviously a common sense thing that you could imagine, but in the moments it's like life isn't happening to you. Life is happening and you're here. Now let's figure out how to move through it. I liked it.
Yes.
Yes, we finished.
We are done. So, yeah, guys, that was 12 Rules for Life by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. You can check out his website. He doesn't need us to plug him, but I will. You can check out his website. He's on tour currently, so you can check that out. I'm actually going to go see him later in March when he comes to this area. I'm very excited. I've also started reading his newest book, We Who Wrestle with God, so I'll keep you posted.
Let me know.
Next week, guys, we are doing the Understand Myself quiz, which is one of his companies or one of his projects. So if you want to do it, our tip this week is to go to understandmyself.com. Check it out. Do the quiz. It's only $10. It's not a big deal. You can do it with a partner and then link and see your compatibility.
So fun.
But we're going to do it and then go over our results, and I'm very excited.
Yes, do it now so that when we talk about it next week, you can also look at yours. It'll be so fun.
I can't wait.
I'm excited.
I'm a sucker for a personality test. And until next week, I love you, bye.
Love you, bye.
My dog keeps boofing.
Boofing?
Yeah, the boof. Boof. It's like not a full bark, it's a boof. All right, Mrs. Pee Pee Pants is gonna go pee pee before we do anything else.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye.